Are you ready for back to school? Because it's here, whether you're ready or not. So I have 5 tips for you to get you and your family ready for an amazing school year full of success. Okay, so we're going to dive right in to the deep end of back to school and talk about anxiety. There are so many fears and hesitations. There's a lot of big feelings going around. So how do you navigate that anxiety with your kiddos, maybe yourself, as we're heading back into the school year? Number 1 is you have to recognize what is within your control and what is not within your control. Because fretting and worrying and being anxious about those things that we can't control, well, we're going to have to let those go. So school policies, school practices, all of those things, we got to let go, at least in this moment, right? PTA meetings, all sorts of other places where you can go impact change. Yes, go do that. But when you're thinking about getting your family ready for school, the things you can't control, you just have to put down. Now, those things that you can control, let's focus on those pieces. Those things that are keeping you up at night, that are making you worried and anxious, making your kids worried and anxious. Well, anxiety is a thought loop where we're stuck in a fear of something that's going to come in the future that may never actually happen. So one of the best ways to combat any kind of anxiety, but especially for school, is to make a list of 5 things that you can actively do to avoid, prevent, change that future from coming. So one of the big anxieties that I've talked to many parents about, whether it's in my workshops or in my private practice, is kids aren't vaccinated yet. And so they're going back to school and parents are concerned about their health. So what are 5 things that you know your kiddo can do, your family can do to make sure that they are staying healthy, that they are staying protected, that they are doing what they need to do? Now, it might be that you know your kiddo is going to wear a mask, whether or not that's a school mandate. It may be that your kiddo knows that they're going to bring their hand sanitizer and use it, whether or not that's a school mandate. Maybe it's that you're going to have different home clothes and school clothes. Whatever it is that is going to make your family feel safe and healthy, that's what you're going to put in place. So the way to combat anxiety, make your list of 5 action steps and then repeat them and go through them. This is how we are staying safe and healthy. So you know exactly what to do. Every time that fear comes up, you say, oh, but I know what we're doing about it. Every time your kiddo is getting anxious about that, you say, oh, what are we doing about it? Because action is the antidote to anxiety. So that's tip number 1 for you. Tip number 2 is all about facing those social skills. Some kids, it's just been the summer that they've been away, but for some kids, it's been a year or more since they've been in school around other kids in this ongoing way. And so you want to make sure that you are talking to your kids about social skills. How do we say hello? How do we share? How do we greet people? How do we ask for help? How do we agree to disagree, which might be a big one this year? So outwardly and openly talk to your kids about this. It may feel weird, especially if you have a tween, they're going to be like, really, I'm too cool. I already know how to do this. But that reminder is helpful. Hey, remember when you get to school, say hi to a few of your friends. Just walk over to them and be like, hey, how are you? Seems very foundational, but is also very critical, because if we've forgotten how to greet people, we've forgotten how to greet people. And I know that I've had some weird, awkward greeting moments. Do we just wave? Do we give a hug? Do we say high five? And if we as adults are having it, or if I'm having it, I am sure there are kids out there are having it. So you want to make sure you talk explicitly to your kiddos about how to navigate that differences. And then with social school skills, it's also this conflict resolution moment. There are lots of people who have lots of different opinions about what is right in this moment. And so first and foremost, you want to talk to your kids about, what do you believe? What does your family values hold true in this moment? Make sure your kids know that. And then give them some lines of what to say when faced with someone who has a different opinion, who has had a different experience over the past year or year and a half, who is living differently. Because we've learned that we're not going to convince people to change their minds, and having your kids get into that debate and fight isn't going to be helpful. So giving them lines like, oh, my family had a different experience. How interesting. Or how was that for you? I'm curious. Or also saying, you got to do what felt good for you, and I get to do what feels good for me. And that's great. that we can have different opinions and do it well. Literally give your kids that sentence so that when they're faced with conflict, they know how to navigate through it. Because the truth is, we have to start agreeing to disagree. We have to start compromising. We have to start saying, you get to live your life the way you want to live it, and I get to live mine. And that's the beauty of where we are right now. Teach your kids to literally say that, because if they can say that to a friend, they will avoid fights and conflicts and hard moments. You might too. Okay, tip number 3 for you is create a positive perspective around school. Even if you are not, oh yes, gung-ho about it, you still need to bring that positive perspective for your kiddo, because they have to go whether or not they're excited. So make a list of 10, yes, 10 things that are going to be great about going back to school, that are going to be great about this school year. And then every day, just drop it into casual conversation. Just mention it along the way so that they can keep thinking about, oh yeah, that's great. Not a, I'm going to tell you what's great about school conversation, because that will feel fake and forced. But oh yeah, I'm really excited that you're in a classroom with our neighbor. That'll be really great. Or I hear the teacher that you have this year is awesome. I'm so excited for you to learn with her. Casual comments will help your kids remember what's good. Now, if you're feeling a little negative, have your own anxieties about school, find a time far, far away from little ears to talk to your friends, to talk with a colleague, to talk to a therapist about your feelings. Because yes, it's not about pretending that everything is great, but I want to make sure that you're navigating your feelings in a place that is safe and good, and your kids are navigating their feelings in a place that is also safe. And it is our job as the adults to create a space for our kids' experience. So just keep sharing those positive things that are going to help them get through the school year. Sound good? Oh, and one more piece on that before we wrap that up is ask your kids in a neutral way. How are they feeling about going back to school? So say, how do you feel about going back to school? Rather than saying, are you worried about going back to school? Or saying, are you excited about going back to school? You want to ask them neutrally. How are you feeling about learning this year? How are you feeling about if they're starting a new school, a new place, a new instrument, a new subject? How are you feeling about that? What do you think about going back to school? Because if you ask with neutral language, you're going to get an actual answer from them about where they are, not colored by your perspective. So we want to add some of that positive perspective so that they can feel good about it because they're going, but you also want to get a clear read so that you can support them however they need that support. All right. Okay. Now, number 4 is to create some intentional, focused energy for them. Let's face it, over the summer and potentially over the past year or year and a half, your kids have not been sitting and focusing the way they need to in school. They're not sitting still at a desk learning. Your kids might have done some summer reading, lounging on the couch or lying in the grass, and that's lovely. But we want to make sure that their bodies are ready with that muscle memory of what is it like to sit and learn, because in school, especially if they're going to be in person, they're going to need some stamina for that. So every day for, maybe 10 minutes, if you have some older kids, maybe up to 30 minutes, have them practice sitting at the kitchen table and reading or doing some worksheets, just so that their bodies can adjust and get used to. So their first day of school isn't the first time they have to sit in a chair and still for many, many hours. Just a little bit of practice will go a long way. Now, truth is, if you've already started back to school, do this on the weekends. Just short little windows of time of them sitting still will help with that stamina. Don't worry, all these tips work even if you are already back to school. They're just a really great strategy for the week or two before leading up to school. Okay. Sound good? Sounds good. Okay. And my 5th and final tip for you is to set up a weekly family meeting. I love this tip. It is my favorite one of the 5 for back to school this year. My recommendation is to do it Sunday because you're getting ready for the week, but you can do it whatever day works for your family and logistics. But whatever grownups and whatever kids are in your house, once a week, sit down and have a conversation. What's happening this week? Are there changes to the school schedule because there's a holiday? Are there changes to the school schedule because there's now aftercare or after school activities? Is there a change in the schedule because one of the adults in the house are traveling for work or traveling for pleasure? Wouldn't that be delightful? Or someone's coming to visit and that's going to shift things up. It's a great time to talk about all of those logistics, get on the same page, because sometimes we as the grown-ups forget to tell our kids that something is going to change. This gives them that knowledge of what's going to happen. It is also a great place to check in with them. How are you feeling? What's going on? What tests do you have coming up? All of those pieces that sometimes get lost in the shuffle of a busy day. This weekly meeting gives you a place for it. But my favorite of favorite reasons for having it is it creates a space to have conversations for when things come up. We have learned to expect the unexpected. And I don't know what the next unexpected thing will be that you'll have to have a heart-to-heart with your family. But if you have the family meeting, you have a place for that conversation. You have a place to talk to them about big issues that are important to your heart, that help you raise amazing humans, because that's part of the role of a parent. So not every week are you going to have these deep, meaningful conversations. Some weeks the meeting will be 3 minutes and on we go. Sometimes the meeting will be a little more meaty, talking about feelings, talking about experiences. And sometimes it will be a real deep heart to heart because something will have happened in the world that you want to make sure you connect with your kids about. And this is the perfect place for it. Yes, you may have casual conversations as you go throughout the week on a daily basis of what's happening, but this gives you a set place to reflect and connect, and that is powerful and important. So now I want to know from you, of these 5 tools, which one are you going to put in place? Because what I suggest is that you do one at a time. Put one in place for a few weeks. And once that becomes part of your regular routine, then add another, then add another, then add another. They will rock you through this school year, because I have a feeling that you could use a little support if you're hanging out on my YouTube channel watching these videos. So with that, if you found this helpful, subscribe to my YouTube channel so you know when there are new and additional exciting videos coming out. Let me know how the school year is going and know that I am always here to help, so feel free to reach out. I look forward to hearing from you soon. Remember, blue skies are ahead and we're going to get there together. Bye. Now I gotta find the button to make it stop.